Welcome back, Blue Stable listeners, to the Blue Stable podcast. We're a little bit somber today after a 28-16 Colts loss to the Seattle Seahawks, but there are positives to be excited about. Rashad McGinnis is back, everybody. You don't just have to listen to me and Michael arguing back and forth. My guy Michael is still here. All three are back in the studio for the first time in what feels like a month and a half.
Yeah, I think it's about that. I got my white and black shirt on. Since I'm the referee of the podcast, I gotta stand in between you and Mike and make sure y'all don't get out of line. Keep you guys together. But man, I appreciate y'all just for holding it down, man. I tell y'all thank you all the time. Y'all did great work, man. I'm just happy to be back after that COVID incident and the evacuation incident. Still trying to get things together from that, but man, I'm just happy to be back under such sad circumstances, though, with the Colts just losing the game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been a while since we've had Rashad here, and y'all can't see me right now. I'm currently where Rashad is right now. We're gonna link up pretty soon, but
Facts.
I'm in Louisiana right now for some Hurricane Ida relief. That's part of my job. I'm down here. We're going in houses, we're restoring those and everything, trying to get Louisiana back to where it was before. But I guess before we get started, we've mentioned it many times throughout the off season, but since we're here, we won't be able to make the Rams game. Unfortunately, it really, literally, I was passing by the Austin airport on my way up here, and man, I shed a tear. I've wanted to go to Indianapolis for so long. I've wanted to see the Colts play live for so long, and that's going to be postponed a little bit longer. But other than that, man, I'm tired right now. But we pushing it, and definitely, I don't know if Rashad's going to have to get in between me and Destin this episode. I think we're all probably going to be on the same side this episode.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, if it takes a loss for me and Michael to agree, I mean, maybe it was necessary. Maybe was just necessary for me and Michael's relationship more than anything else. But real quick, before we get into the game, something that I just noticed just because of I was at the game. I'm a season ticket holder this year, so I was in my section for my first regular season game as a season ticket holder. Pat McAfee came for the Anvil. It was Pat McAfee's undefeated streak on the Anvil against the Colts. 8-year run of losing in the opener. Obviously, Pat McAfee's streak came to an end, but Pat McAfee had a whole speech before he let that Anvil have it, and it wasn't anywhere on Twitter, and he took shots at the Seahawks, man. He took shots at Russell Wilson, and I mean, talking to you guys and talking to other people, nobody else has heard it, huh?
No, man. This is actually the first I'm hearing about it. When you told me in pre-pro, I'm just shocked that as you described it, such a
personality.
Big personality like Pat McAfee can say something and it just flies under the radar like that. Typically guys of his stature and his nature just is always getting recorded, always has a camera on him at all times because he's such a public figure. What do you think about it, Mike?
I think Chris Ballard was pissed off and blamed Pat for the loss. I think maybe.
Hey! Ballard has said some things in pressers joking around as well. But just so for anybody that wasn't at the game that didn't get to hear it because national media just didn't pick it up, and I was shocked. It was the kind of content that national media really usually tries to make way bigger than it is. But during his old speech, he was pumping up the crowd, trying to get Indy going, Lucas Oil riled up. And eventually it turned to him talking about the Seahawks. And this is a paraphrase, of course, and not a quote. But he basically went along the lines of saying that while the Colts were getting ready for this game on this day against the Seahawks, that Russell Wilson wasn't focusing on playing the Colts in the season opener, that he was focusing on becoming a Chicago Bear the entire offseason. And the whole crowd was laughing. The whole crowd was getting jazzed up by it. Obviously, it wasn't enough for the Colts to wake up and start out week one with a win. But I'm just telling you guys, I was shocked it wasn't everywhere. I was expecting – I saw NFL Network was there beforehand. I saw Tom Pelissero was on the field for NFL Network pregame, and maybe it was like a green screen and just like fooled me, Tom, if you're listening. But NFL Network looked like they had at least a personnel there. So the fact that didn't get put everywhere when he made that jab at Russ, I'm still shocked.
Breaking news. Dustin Adams from the Blue Stable confirms Russell Wilson does not care about football. And Pat McAfee told him that directly. So go ahead and do what you want with that, folks. That is our piece of information. Since nobody else is going to spin it, we're going to spin it at the Blue Stable.
Apparently.
Yeah.
And if anybody has a video of him saying it, I promote you to tweet it out. Let people hear that because it was hilarious. And I feel like it just needs video proof of it. And Pat McAfee did not say that with the intent of not getting all the headlines. He meant to be on the headlines. And I bet he's disappointed just as I am. And real quick, before we jump right into the game, just one of the big, in my opinion, overreactions to the game that feels like happens every single game. You think Colts fans would learn. You think you guys would learn. But every game, it just feels like there's a group that is just flat out disagrees with going for it on 4th and short. I believe the Colts went for it 3 times. One time 4th and 3, 4th and 2, 4th and 1. And the 4th and 1 may have been 4th and inches. Still didn't convert it, but I'm just saying it was that close. So what are your guys' thoughts on it? Did you agree with the going for it each time? Or do you think Frank's too aggressive?
I think with Frank, and I thought this a little bit last year, he's got to dial back the aggressiveness a little bit, especially like if you're in a week 1 game. And of course, week 1 games where the Colts are today, I would imagine they're better in week 8. You know, they're still trying to get that chemistry. They're still trying to get better, get their legs under them. Everybody's trying to get back into football shape. And maybe it was just rustiness from not playing in the preseason. Maybe it was that. Maybe it was not. But as far as the 4th down call is concerned, I mean, they didn't surprise me at all. I just am still baffled by the fact that this man continues to call pass plays on 4th and very short. I just don't understand it. If you want to give it to Jonathan Taylor, that's fine. But having Carson Wentz do a full 7-step drop back and try to look for a 30-yard pass, that's honestly starting to get on my nerves a little bit. Now,
did you trust the offensive line to get push enough to run up the middle though on 4th and short?
I trust them and I trust Jonathan Taylor. I mean, they've earned that trust, haven't they?
They didn't during that game.
Right.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I disagree with you.
That means that they did not live up to absolutely. But that means that they didn't live up to expectations. It is their job to do what they've been doing for the past 2-3 years. And they failed to do it against a team I really don't think highly of as a defensive line unit. And that still remains to be seen.
Hey, I tried to tell you, Mike, on the pregame, and everyone that was dissing the Seahawks pass rush defense, the Seahawks, I mean, even if it's not personnel based, I mean, hey, first of all, Darnell Taylor out of Tennessee, the rookie for them, man, lit Braden Smith up multiple times. Just made him look foolish. Now the injury news came out afterwards. I mean, I'm not gonna speculate, but I mean, when I see a guy get his ass beat, I feel like you see a lot of injury things come out afterwards. But I mean, that's just me, just making a statement on it. But
especially
I'm telling
a guy
you,
who just got paid.
They have some quality speed rushers first and foremost. I mean, Carlos Dunlap came on at the end of last year. Darnell Taylor obviously overperformed his rookie debut expectations. But I mean, it all comes down to the fact that they are a very creative pass rush group, just because of how the scheme works. They throw a lot of things at you. They ran a lot of stunts yesterday where Taylor and Dunlap would both come off the outside and rush the interior and rush Jamal Adams off the outside. And I mean, the Colts just didn't have any answers for it.
But here's back to my point real quick. These 7-step dropbacks and everything. I mean, if it's that, but I mean, if you know that your offensive line is not performing that well, if you know that you're bad at left tackle, why are you even going down this route to begin with? In my opinion, I mean, I get it in a coach's perspective. You trust your team, but at some points you have got to come to the realization that, man, we're just getting our behinds kicked, man. You got to come up with that realization at some point in a game and just say, man, today's just not our day. Like, why are we having Carson drop back 7 yards and just putting Julian Davenport on an island. I still don't get that. There was no chip help. There was no help whatsoever for Julian Davenport. So honestly, a lot of this game I'm going to put on Frank because Jesus, man, these fourth down play calls are starting to piss me the hell off, honestly. I agree with going for it, but Jesus, you held out a young running back for a reason. You drafted him high for a reason when no one expected you to. You kept all these running backs for a reason. Use them on 4th and 1. Use them. Jesus, Frank, really, dude? I mean, I'm not trying to get too riled up because that's going to come later in the show with another dude. But, I mean, honestly, again, I don't have a problem with it. I've already come to the realization Frank is that guy. And again, kind of like, you know, a coach look good when those 4th down conversions succeed. Just like last year in the divisional game between Kansas City and Cleveland, man, Andy Reid would have been chewed out, destroyed, and called for his job if Chad Henne did not complete that out route to Tyreek Hill on 4th and 2 against Cleveland. He would have been chewed out, but because it was successful, guess what? He got called an offensive genius. So part of it is a coach learning that what the weaknesses are on his team, and also it's about execution. Both of those things did not exist in Lucas Oil Stadium that day.
I'm going to take the polar opposite approach, so I'm going to let Rashad go first.
I agree with the calls, personally, because it lines up with a philosophy I have, and that's when you're going against a team that is better than you, then, you know, you can't settle for field goals. You have to be aggressive. You can't play like you're afraid to lose the game. You have to play like you're trying to win the game. And that's what I think Frank's mindset is. Sometimes the execution fails, as we saw Sunday and as we saw even in the Buffalo game, you know, going back to the playoff game from last year when Michael Pittman missed the pass that Phillip Rivers overthrew by just a hair on a crucial 4th down that led to a Buffalo touchdown, kind of opened the game up. You know, we saw several times Frank went for it last night. Sunday night. One was a fumbled snap. It just happens. You know, Kelly and Wentz, they don't have a lot of reps together. They've been injured. They've been COVID lists. They just had so few snaps together as a whole. That's gonna things are like that is gonna happen. You don't want that to happen on a 4th down, of course, but on a quarterback sneak, Carson took ownership, said it was his fault. Said he tried to run before he even had possession of the ball. So he's taking and the pass play, you don't expect your $74 million right tackle to get blown up like that, especially against someone that's, you know, has no reputation, such as Taylor, a guy that's fresh, that's new. You just wasn't expecting it. And that was simply unacceptable for Braden Smith. Like that is him and Kelly can't have the game they have. And I don't want to get ahead of things that we're going to talk about later, but they have to be better. You know, you expect Davenport to be Davenport. Davenport's going to Davenport. So we're not putting the onus on him because that is what it is. We expected that. But I love the aggressiveness. I love the fate that he had in the offense to be able to pick up 1 or 2 yards. But like you said, Dustin, I remember you saying this Sunday after the game, if you can't pick up one or 2 yards on 4th downs, then you don't deserve to win a game. And I agree with that totally, especially when you're going against a team that is better than you and you can't afford to settle for field goals on such an explosive offense, a team that can score within a couple of plays.
I'm going to tell you the moment in the game that I was the most pissed off, and it came on the very first offensive drive. We kicked a field goal at the 2-yard line. At the 2-yard line. So I'm not going to talk about thinking Frank needs to be less aggressive. I was in awe that we settled for a field goal. I mean, this was a team that we were going in. Seattle on paper was a better football team than us. You heard Rashad say that. Colts fans disagreed with us coming into that when we said this. We had some disagreements on Twitter with some people that even thought that the Seahawks were like a one-man show almost with Wilson, and like that's just not the case. Like there's just so many talented guys on this roster, both sides of the ball, really. Now, I want to talk about that first. Could not believe we didn't go for it from the 2-yard line. That was the moment in the game that I disagreed with Frank the most, 100%. Now, from some of the other ones, I mean, we're playing from behind the majority of the rest of the game. You're not coming back off of Hot Rod's foot. I like Hot Rod. I do. I mean, I think he's good at his job. Do I think he would have made most of those field goals? Probably, if not all. But you're not coming back with 3 points. A tweet that I want to bring up from at Miller Time Pod, David Surley on Twitter. He's Miller Time Pod's a Pacer pod. If you guys are into that stuff, check him out. But he tweeted this about going for it when we were down 11 that last time, and it was fourth and 2 was that one. If you go for it on 4th and short, down 11, you know these things. You know that even if you score the touchdown and you miss the 2-point conversion, you're going to need another score. You know if the other team gets a field goal, then you now need 2 touchdowns. You need no longer 1, it's 2 touchdowns. You're shortening the field on a final drive down 3. All compelling reasons why winning down 11 is hard. Roll the dice. So many things have to go your way. Even if you kick 3, you're down 8. And if they go down and get a field goal, I mean, the defense wasn't in a situation where I would say they 100% were getting a stop. I just don't think we're in position to say that being down 8 it was sufficient at that point. You had to switch the momentum. You had to find a way to win it. So that last one I had no problems with. And then 4th and short, Frank Reich's going to go for it. That's who he is. That's who he's created his mantra to be. I'm shocked that people are shocked about it. I say that every single time that I get on Twitter after a game, and that's what people are complaining about, is because if you are a Colts fan and you've watched every single game, I don't know how you ever expect them to send out a field goal unit or a punting unit on 4th and 3 and shorter. I just don't see how you aren't expecting it at this point. But that's my personal opinion on it. I'd rather lose the game saying we tried everything we could to come back than saying we went conservative. But this goes all the way back to when the Colts ended up losing in overtime to Houston a few years ago because we went for it on 4th down instead of kicking a field goal that would have tied it, and we lost the game. I was all for that aggressiveness because I think when you settle for ties and you settle for just ending those games that way, you've just already lost mentally. And that to me is just harder to come back from than losing how we did 28-16 to Seattle. That's my opinion on it. I know that is a very polarizing argument. I do see the points that Michael's bringing to why it makes sense, maybe even statistically and analytically. But I can't get behind trying to come back down 11 from the foot of Hot Rod. I just don't see it's possible.
Now, here's my thing on that. And you mentioned the Houston game that first year. We also lost because of his aggressiveness against Jacksonville when we lost, what was it, 6-0? I think it was in 2018. So there was another loss because we were like 0 for 4 inside the 5. And some days, hey, man, some days just aren't your day. And with that one, I mean, I think we were talking about 2 completely different things. What was it with like 8 minutes left in the 4th? I think it was. It's 4th down. Davenport got destroyed on the rep. I mean, I would have trusted the offensive line because the entire game we were getting 2, 3, 4-yard runs. We weren't busting 20-yard runs, but we were getting 4, 3, 2-yard runs, and it was 4th and 1.
But that wasn't because of the offensive line. I mean, if you go back and look at any positive gain run that we had in that game, it came off of Hines or Taylor breaking tackles and just creating something out of nothing. The thing is, that's hard to put money into. Like, that's hard to bet on a guy being able to like break a tackle, especially in those situations where teams know you're running.
That's why you invest high draft picks. That's why you give Nyheim Hines the money you just gave. You don't just say that.
We also
we're not just gonna we're not gonna put the ball in your hands in these situations, but you got your money.
But we also invested that with the thought that we had a top 5 O-line unit, especially running the ball, like run blocking.
Exactly.
But that day, that wasn't the case.
Test them.
But that entire game, that wasn't the case.
Destin, you test them, Destin.
They failed, but they failed.
And say, you know what? We're gonna change our way. No, we keep on saying running the damn ball, but in the most pivotal moments, we don't run the damn ball. Like, that's what's crazy to me. Pick up the quick first down and then let Carson gunsling. Let him gunsling. Just pick up the first down. Get the first down. Don't get 30 yards. I mean, Jesus, Carson looked like he was going for the big throw. And I'm all for it. The 4th downs. Trot the offense out there, especially if it's 4th and 3 or under. Trot their asses out there. We're going to get it. But at some point, someone's got to take accountability. And it was Frank It was the offensive line. Those are who were accountable. You got to kick these people in the butt. And I mean, I don't even know why I'm acting surprised. I predicted this team would go 7-10, but I didn't think it would be because of the offensive line. I really didn't.
We're getting ahead of ourselves, guys.
Yeah, I say we'll talk more about this in a second, but
Yeah.
moral of the story sounds like we're 2-1. Rashad and me sound like we're team more of the we understand why we went for it and we're okay with it. We actually agree with why the reasoning for it. And Michael's definitely on that polar end, which a lot of Colts fans are. So Michael's not alone, even though it's just him right now on this pod.
What's up?
Like a lot of Colts Nation did agree with that. And obviously Michael has some fellow people over there with him that we're hearing from. But real quick, before we actually get into our takeaways from the game, post all the fourth down conversions and McAfee's Anvil talk, this next topic is sponsored by One Call Technology. One Call Technology is a managed telecom service provider whose senior staff has 100+ years of experience in virtually every aspect of business communications, business phone system installation and services, managed telecom services, high-speed internet. Head on over to One Call's website at www.onecalltech.com or give them a call at 888-585-8850 and tell them the Blue Stable sent you. And up next, we're going to be talking about the takeaways we had from this game. Rashad, I'm going to let you go first. What was a big takeaway you saw from the 28-16 loss to Seattle?
Well, I mean, let's not act like the biggest takeaway and probably my biggest thing I'm looking for this season was the play of Carson Wentz. You know, Carson Wentz played a lot better than I expected him to with the rust and the things he was coming off of. We know he had a terrible season last year, but we also know his circumstances and his situation. We know he was coming into a much better situation here in Indy, but due to the fact that he just haven't been available to get those reps and only 3 full practices, 4, I guess, if you're counting the training camp practice that he had under his belt before he went down with an injury. We know he's been simulating reps, on his way back while he was rehabbing, but there's nothing like that live game speed, no preseason. Carson played great, man. I mean, great regarding of what they asked him to do. Frank, I think, kept it relatively simple for him as far as the play calling and the things that he was asked to do. He threw a lot of screen passes. We saw the run catch a lot of balls. I believe Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines had 6 catches apiece to lead the team. Wide receivers didn't get much work. He used Jack Doyle a few times. And shout out to Mr. Reliable, Zach Pascal. Him and Carson seem to have a good rapport with each other. And I just was excited to see him back in action, man, and to see him bring something to the table that we haven't seen since year before last when we had a mobile quarterback. He was able to move a little bit, move around the pocket, but the offensive line didn't give him a chance to do much vertically, and that's what I'm expecting to see in the future. I don't know if it's going to happen in this Rams game, but I'm assuming Frank's going to open it up for him, and he's going to get a chance to really show what he can do. But I like it, man. First game out the gate, that's my biggest takeaway because that's the thing I'm looking at closely this season.
Yeah, we knew that we just didn't want Carson to be the reason we lost games. Carson could not come in, be a liability, be a guy that on the field was holding things back. That wasn't the case. I feel like everything around him limited his abilities. I even think the O-line play is the reason we saw such a vanilla play calling from Frank, because there just wasn't many options. I mean, another thing that I saw was that the receivers really struggled at the line of scrimmage, which was shocking to me because during the preseason, which I know it's preseason, and in training camp, the line of scrimmage is where a lot of these guys were making money, man. Paris Campbell during preseason, there wasn't a corner that was keeping him at the line of scrimmage. He was creating separation like a snap of your finger right away. Pittman, I feel like even he at the line of scrimmage was over exceeding what I thought he would do in preseason. But in this game, it just didn't feel like anybody could buy separation. I thought Zach Pascal was the best receiver on the field, and it wasn't close. Not even just because the statistical 2 touchdowns at the end of the game. Michael Strawn didn't get a lot of work, but both of his catches were at big moments, and he created enough separation to help Wentz hit that tight window. On both of them were key first downs to keep that game going. Pittman and Paris, man, they both got to be better. That Seattle DB room is one of the worst we're going to face this year. That's what has me nervous. Like the corners in Seattle are struggling. Those corners, and the fact that Pittman and Paris couldn't create that separation and they couldn't make a bigger impact against those guys, that has me worried. I mean, I think the offensive line had to do with it. I do, that there wasn't enough time for routes to develop. So I'm not going to put it all on them, but it was still a disappointing outing for those guys.
One 100% agree with both of you. I mean, Carson is not the reason we lost this game. I would say he was practically back in Philly. Horrible line play. Wide receivers can't get open. He was basically back in Philly. The whole game, he was probably, man, I really pushed to actually come to this damn team. Like, man, what's going on? The first thing that comes to my head, I mean, let's stop hoping and praying that Eric Fisher comes back, man. I don't give a damn how good Eric Fisher is. If these guys continue to be this bad, it's not going to matter. Anthony Costanzo was here for years, and we still sucked. So, man, I'm really hoping and praying for this. But, look, they were running their mouths all off season, just running their mouths, and they come out like that. So I'm coming at the defense on this one. Edge rush play was pathetic. Linebacker play was distasteful, embarrassing. Safety play was pitiful. Hell, I turned the game off like 5 damn times because I was tired of watching it. Hell, I think Rock didn't have that bad of a game, but hell, man, this defense got embarrassed. They got embarrassed. They doubled down in the third. I think that was easily their best quarter of the game, but hell, I just still don't understand this cover 2 scheme. I really don't. I just don't understand it in this day and age of football. Russell Wilson, this was probably the easiest game he was probably going to have all year. Maybe not, but definitely it could. Russell Wilson could not have asked for an easier day. He really couldn't. I'm so tired of this cover 2 scheme. And yes, that means Matt Eberflus has to go. I've been saying it since last year. I'm done with him. I really hope it doesn't cause the Colts to miss the playoffs or anything, because they just have too much talent on this team to be going what I predicted 7-10. They just have too much talent to be doing that. Al-Qadim Muhammad, 38 snaps. Ben Bandigu, 6. Embarrassing. Some embarrassing, stupid excuse Matt gave. NASCAR race, shut the hell up. That's not the reason you benched him. You benched him because Kamoko Toure was out and Isaac Rochelle can't play the game of football, so you had to put someone in a uniform that you don't like. So that's just how it goes. Al-Qadim Muhammad, I think, had an okay game. He definitely did some good things. In the run game a little bit, he got to Russell Wilson a couple times, DeForest Buckner, good sack. But in terms of the linebackers, man, the linebackers did not play well at all. They did not play well at all. Darius Leonard got caught looking way too much. Bobby Okereke, man, I'm telling y'all, Anthony Walker had a big voice in that linebacker room. He had a lot of guys in positions, told everybody what their job was. And now that's Bobby's job. That's Darius Leonard's job. They're both capable of it, I think. But, man, what a quarterback to go against on day one, a Super Bowl champion, one of the better quarterbacks we've had of this generation. And the defense has got to be better. They've got to be better. Kari Willis, man, first off, what a throw. What a catch from Wilson to Lockett in the second quarter. I mean, that was just a beautiful, beautiful play development. Kari, you know, I love him, but him versus Tyler Lockett, man, I think I'll take Tyler Lockett 10 times out of 10. The defense overall, man, it just needs to be better. Needs to be better. All these thoughts about we're a top 5 defense, we can get 40 turnovers. You did not live up to that. You got to go play football. And I'm definitely calling out the defense after this week 1. It was not close. The score made it look a little bit closer than it actually was, in my opinion. I really wanted to see a lot more from Darius Leonard and Bobby Okereke, and I'm disappointed in those two, mainly on the defense.
And I will say, it's almost, and this is going to sound weird and contradicting, but it's almost a positive to the Colts' outlook for the season when you talk about how many guys had in our eyes as a Colts the worst game we've seen them play as Colts, because that, I mean, almost more than even having those career high days, it's hard to replicate that kind of bad play. I mean, we've already talked about Braden Smith and Ryan Kelly, two guys that are in the top 10 of their position. I think I think Kelly's a top 3 center in football. I do. And he had an embarrassing outing. Most tweets were about Davenport, but we knew who he was. We knew he was a backup tackle for a reason.
Yeah.
We knew he was a guy that struggled against speed rushers. He's a big, massive guy. He's a better run blocker than a pass blocker, and didn't hold up in pass protection. We knew that. But Braden Smith allowed more sacks on Sunday than he did the entire year last year. He allowed more pressures on Sunday than he did the entire year last year. And he did that in one game, and he got put on his ass multiple times. This wasn't just he got beat by some slick moves over there. Like Darnell Taylor out-muscled Smith multiple times. Smith and Kelly, just embarrassing outings. You talked about Darius Leonard and Bobby Okereke. I mean, that was the worst coverage that I've seen. Two guys that are actually pretty solid in coverage, especially Okereke. Okereke, in my opinion, has been the better of the two in coverage overall. And then Darius Leonard is just a better playmaker overall. Both of them just had pretty poor outings. I mean, obviously, Darius Leonard ended up forcing the fumble, and I think they both had a better second half than first half for sure. But overall, awful days. Kari Willis and Justin Blackman felt like they were in the wrong position on every deep ball they needed. They were always trailing. They were always trying to make up ground. Both guys just overall had awful days, especially Kari Willis. I feel like that was the worst guy I've seen of him in a very long time. Al-Qadim Muhammad, we know what he is. He's the same thing every time he's on the field. I have no issues with him. I think he's just meant to be a rotational guy, and the Colts keep using him as a starter. I mean, he was top 5 in snaps on the defense. That can't happen. Not for a guy as bland and just very easy to game plan for. You got to throw some of these young guys out there. We let these other guys walk for a reason. I mean, the list could just go on and on. The receivers had poor days. We didn't see much outing from the tight ends. You mentioned earlier how the tight end didn't help Davenport at all. That's a Frank decision, in my opinion, where I will criticize Frank. I saw very few tight end help for Davenport. I would see the tight ends line up and help block with Braden Smith more than Davenport. How I just don't understand it. But I mean, so many guys having their worst day, you can almost look at it as a positive for the Colts going forward, because those guys, they got their shit handed to them. Now how they respond matters. And if these guys can't pick it up and get back to their old selves, that's football, man.
I mean, this is typical. Oh, I'm gonna let Rashad get in first.
No, I don't have much to say. I just want to kind of piggyback off something Dustin said. I'm not really mad at the way the cornerbacks play per se. It's more on the safeties to me, man. Like, if we're going to address something in the secondary, something we thought was a strength, maybe not the depth at safety because we're only running with 3 safeties right now, but the fact that our 2 starting safeties, one guy we especially think has Pro Bowl potential, and another guy who's been rock solid for us for the last going on 3 years now, it was disappointing to see. It was disappointing to see because we thought the Achilles heel of the secondary was by far the cornerbacks. We was missing our number 1 corner, Xavier Rhodes, who didn't play. Rocket Sin filled in for him. Rocket Sin played 100% of the snaps on Sunday and was actually pretty solid. It was the safeties who were out of position. Going back to the first touchdown, where Eberflus sent 7 guys. And that's another thing. I've seen Eberflus blitz more Sunday than probably his whole tenure since he's been defensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. I guess it's a good sign, but that he's trying to switch it up. But we expect better safety play, and I think he expected those guys to be able to match up a little bit better, not expecting you to cover those guys full-fledged for 4 to 5 seconds. But at least 2 to 3 seconds, you should be able to stay in position. I mean, Russ literally heaved it to the heavens, looked like, but it was a perfect throw. Kari Willis was out of position, and that just can't happen, man. It just can't happen.
I just don't understand why you're blitzing Russell Wilson to begin with. I really don't.
That was my comment. If you're gonna make a game where you blitz the most, you shouldn't do it against Aaron Rodgers. It worked for the Bucs in the playoffs, but I mean, Aaron Rodgers is one of the best at picking up blitzes in the NFL. Russell Wilson's another one. He's a guy that makes money when you send that extra help and he finds the opening.
Yes. I mean, he's just that smart of a football player. And I said it this offseason. And honestly, I think it showed on that football field. This team, this defense misses Anthony Walker. I think he was the smartest football player. Like in terms of everything he digested, he knew what everyone's position was. He was so smart. He was such a leader on this defense. And I said it when we let him go. I expected us to let him go because Bobby Okereke was clearly the next man up. It showed yesterday. Guys were out of position. That's not a coincidence. I mean, either that or you just didn't give a damn coming into Sunday. It's either one of the two, in my opinion.
There was a lot of arguments within the defenders. I mean, on the touchdown to Gerald Everett's touchdown underneath, there was a lot of arguing going on even pre-snap. Blackman was out of position. Kenny almost had to like drag him to the right position at one point because Blackman was covering on the underneath when he was supposed to be out wide. And then on that touchdown throw to Everett, you saw Darius Leonard and Bobby Okereke split the waters in the middle of the field on the 4-yard line. And that can't happen. You can't give the entire center of the end zone to a guy like Russell Wilson. He's going to find the opening. He's going to hit it. Now, the only pushback I have about it is I wouldn't even say it's the Colts' fault for letting Anthony Walker leave. He was leaving because he had to go get playing time elsewhere. He wasn't going to get it here. So, I mean, it's hard to blame the Colts for letting Anthony Walker leave.
I never blamed the Colts.
I know.
We all agreed he would be gone, but he did so much for this defense.
And now I do think vocally, maybe he would have helped. I still think the fact that Okereke had a bad day in pass protection, he would probably still be better than the best pass protection day we ever saw from Anthony Walker. And I love Anthony Walker. I love him as a person. I will root for him in Cleveland. I think he has a lot of strengths that Colts fans don't realize because he just struggled in that one area, and that's where they honed in on him. But I do not think Anthony Walker would have made that much of a difference Sunday, personally. I
think it would have helped against the run, though.
Yeah,
we struggled to do that, to stop the run, and that's uncharacteristic for us.
I mean, hey, when you can't even do what you're the best, like what your bread and butter as a team is, that you knew you were going to struggle. I mean, the Colts were struggling to get that 4 a carry. They struggled to stop the run. It felt like Carson was able to get 4 a carry plus some just about every time he touched the ball. The biggest pro that I took was Hines and Taylor were still making plays. Hines and Taylor, no matter the adversity, were finding ways to get theirs. I mean, a lot of people were mad at Frank Reich for all the screen calls. But, I mean, if you go back and watch the entire offensive game, it was the only play that had 100% effectiveness. Like, they weren't stopping the screens because Hines and Taylor were making those plays. They were finding the holes. They were hitting it. And the receivers just weren't creating enough separation with the amount of time the offensive line was giving them on routes to be able to keep calling those plays. You weren't able to do it anymore. You were already down. You couldn't just keep calling something that wasn't working. So we saw an abundance of screens, but your running backs can't be your leading receivers every week, and you expect to be a winning football team.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's not 1980 anymore. That's just not going to happen. I think, truthfully, now this is like hopefully some good news, optimism going forward. In my opinion, what happened on Sunday with the defensive side of the ball, I think they were feeling themselves too much. They were gassing each other up all offseason. They did some good stuff last year for a team that got knocked out of the first round of the playoffs. And you were feeling yourselves all offseason, made all these proclamations, these demands, these goals, and you came out feeling yourselves. This is a young team. Very young team. Corey Willis is in year 3. Julian Blackman is in year 2. Darius Leonard's now in year 4, I want to say. Bobby Okereke is in year 3. Hell, Kwity Paye's a rookie. I mean, these guys are still young. So if this is the growing up process that they needed, then it's time to grow the hell up. I mean, you can't just walk out on the field and think you some big stuff, because just as big and bad as you are, there's someone on the other side of the ball bigger and badder than you. So, I mean, that goes for everyone on the defense except DeForest Buckner because he's bigger than everybody. So, I think this defense needs to double down. They need to buckle down, man. This is probably our most talented side of the football, maybe. And that's just a big maybe to me because I love defense. But this defense, I expected so much better from them, so much better. And Destin honed in on it. Everyone was out of position. There was way too much communication. When you see too much communication going on, that means guys are confused. That means guys are second guessing where they're supposed to be. That means they don't know what they're doing. So we got to get back in the classroom, apparently. We got to get back to the playbook. We got to get back to film study. We got to get back to all that. I mean, the great ones get back and get in the lab and work on it. So it would be epic Colts fashion to wet the bed in week 1 and come back and beat the Rams in epic Colts fashion. That's just who the Colts are. They're going to lose the games you expect them to win, and then they're going to win the games you expect them to lose.
Well, I didn't expect them to win this one, and it sure didn't win. So hopefully that is the case. I mean, that's what we're hoping for. And one more thing I wanted to touch on, the point Dustin made about the running backs playing well. They also did good in pass protection, too. I seen Jonathan Taylor pick up a crucial blitz on that second touchdown to Pascal, and Carson Wentz delivered a beautiful ball. Those guys did what they could. I mean, with the circumstances that they were placed in with the offensive line. And I want to credit Seattle guys for tackling well in space, because on some of those screenplays, it looked like it was going to go, man. Jonathan Taylor had one where I just knew for sure he would walk in the end zone, and out of nowhere came a linebacker for Seattle. I'm blanking on who it was, but he made a tackle, and they was able to get a stop, man. It was a really good game in the game of inches, because a couple of those screenplays and a couple of those run plays, they could have went. But the football is not round. You can't predict where it's going to bounce, and it clearly didn't bounce our way Sunday. And that's one of those games you just got to file away, and hopefully you come out and play better. One thing I do like is that Frank Wright, he does respond well to losses. So I'm expecting this team to play a lot better Sunday. Not saying if I expect them to win yet, we'll do that on the preview show, but I'm expecting them to play a lot better. That's for sure. No debate about that.
I said it before the Seattle game. I thought, and this wasn't me saying I think we're going to beat the Rams when I tweeted it out, but I thought the Colts matched up better with the Rams and the Seahawks just off of personnel and scheme fit wise. I think the Colts going into the Seattle game weren't worrying as much on the pass protection as they're going to for the Rams. I think no matter how good you think our Colts offensive line is, what the defensive line of the Rams is. You know how great that is. You're going to hone in on that. You're going to watch it. Now, it's a two-sided coin almost, because the Rams have seen a lot of the Seahawks twice a year, every year. They know, and so they know how Russell Wilson works. They're going to watch that Colts Seahawks game, and they're going to understand how Wilson was taking us apart, how he was eating us up, the areas that the Seahawks beat us. And the Rams are better in most of those positions to be able to, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It's going to be an interesting one. We're going to talk about that more in our next show, of course, but there were positives, guys. I know there was a lot of negatives getting set out here, but it was week 1. The team just overall just never really felt like they were in this one, and that's why there's so many negatives going to come out of it. But to me, I think you should leave this game knowing, and the biggest takeaway even, and it was the first thing that Rashad said, was that Carson Wentz looked like a guy you could win with. Carson Wentz looks like a guy who can make the plays needed. And can we just talk about how good it felt to see a guy roll out the pocket again? Oh my gosh. I forgot how much I loved it. I did. I loved Phillip Rivers last year. That's not an anti-Phillip Rivers comment. I loved watching Phil play. I loved watching Rivers just mentally win snaps. But to see a guy roll out of the pocket is just something we weren't able to see for an entire season. And if can you imagine if Phil was out there week 1, how many sacks there would have been?
Oh God. It would have been ugly.
He got the ball out quick. Don't get me wrong, but dang.
Yeah. I mean, Carson, a lot of what he likes to do has to involve a little bit of pass protection. That's just what we didn't see on Sunday. He likes to step into the pocket and deliver some darts, and he couldn't step into a pocket. There was no pocket to step in. So
And there were a
I'm
few times
really
that I feel like Wentz didn't go through his progressions
uh-huh.
at his best capabilities. But obviously, when you're spending an entire game on the edge of your toes trying to see if you have to break it out of the pocket because the entire right side and interior is just collapsing over and over again, it's tough to make that right call every single time. So do I think he was perfect? No. But do I think he showed all the talent and why they went out and traded for him? 100%. And I think that was the biggest positive to take away from all this. I loved the running backs. I thought the corners played better than I expected. But I still think it's going to be a problem the entire year. And that's a reason that I tweeted out what I did. The depth there is going to be a problem at some point. I think Rock played well when he was lined up over DK Metcalf. Just because of that aggressiveness and being able to just to fight with a guy. Did DK beat him a few times? Yeah, but that's going to happen. Now, when we had to see Rock anywhere near Lockett, Rock was even on Eskridge one time when Eskridge made a good grab because he just made that separation off Rock. It's just going to be tough this year, guys. That corner group is going to be tough to watch, and I don't want to sound like a pessimistic fan, but I don't think Xavier Rhodes is going to be the savior that some Colts fans think when they keep saying, but our corner one was out this week.
Well, I just want to remind everyone that if you think Russell Wilson and the Seahawks were good offensively, uh, get ready because it's not going to get any better. Matthew Stafford and the Rams are coming to town. We still have the Cardinals. We still have plenty of good teams offensively
The Titans
that we're
twice.
going to face. Oh, the Titans, and that's just around the corner. So both of us got embarrassed. Yeah, this is gonna whoo man, it's like some of the things Destin and I talked about this offseason. They kind of showed a little bit on Sunday without the Carson Wentz the questions I had and everything. I think he answered a lot of those on Sunday. But man, it's week one. It's week one. I don't want to overreact too much, okay? I don't want to overreact. Week one, the Colts are going to be a better team than in week 8 than they were in week 1. How much better? That's still yet to be determined. But what's the health of this team? Braden Smith, Xavier Rhodes, how serious is that calf injury? Kamoko Toure, how long has he been out? Is Paris Campbell really lingering with the issue, but he's toughing through it? There's some things to figure out, but I think off talent wise, I just can't help but think this Colts team's going to be all right. I can't talent wise, Frank Reich wise, I just can't help but think this team's going to be all right, and I'm going to roll with that.
Well, like I said, I spoke about what I thought went well for us the running backs. I thought the quarterback played well. That was my first takeaway. Something else that I liked the way that DeForest Buckner responded after halftime. I know he was pretty quiet in the first half, but once he got settled in, you can see that he's still going to be a force. Like you can see the signs are there. I know he ended up getting a sack, but he had a couple of hurries, a couple of pressures. I think he'll be fine once he settles in. The defense responded well after halftime, but we know that they always does that. They did that last year. We can't afford to let people put us in a hole like that. I did like the way they played in the second half, but the fact that I don't know if y'all know this or not, but this was Russ' second highest passing rating of his career. I believe he played.
I believe it.
149 games, I believe, something in that ballpark.
On that Monday Night Football Manning broadcast, he gave St. Elmo's a shout out, saying he thought St. Elmo's helped him play better. So I'm just saying.
Oh my Jesus!
Russell Wilson had his second highest efficient game of his career, and he's had some great games.
That's embarrassing.
So we saw Gardner Minshew go 19 for 20 last year on opening day. Now we're seeing Russell Wilson have his second highest efficient game.
Hey,
it's something about opening days, man.
What you just said about Gardner Minshew, though, like after watching that game last year, I thought we were going to be the worst secondary in football. Like I really thought it was possible, like because it was just that bad.
It was bad.
And they responded. They bounced back. So that's the other thing everyone needs to remember. It's week 1. Are these all takeaways that are real and that happened last Sunday? Yeah, but last Sunday's in the past. We're 0-1. Now we're on to week 2 where we're 0-0 for week 2 right now. We got to figure out what's going on. And the Colts motto that they did before anybody else. Every other NFL team is starting to pull it and steal it from us. But the goal is to go 1-0 each week. So we're on to week 2. I want you guys to make sure you guys are listening to that next episode where we're going to break down the Rams' upcoming game and seeing what we see in that matchup. Do you guys have anything else before we head out?
I'm scared for Sunday. Yeah, rip, prayers, everything, miracle.
I'm frightened after watching that Sunday night game. The Rams just shredded the Bears.
Go to confession, something.
Hey, guys, we're going to break all that down. We're going to calm all the fears, and we're going to see what we can do, what the Colts need to do if they want to be a 1-1 football team come the end of week 2. But you guys have been listening to the Blue Stable podcast, the official Colts podcast of Fansided. My name is Destin Adams. Today, I was joined back by the Rashad McGinnis, Michael Terrazas, and guys, as always, and even after a loss, go Colts.